Title: I thought my wife was cheating. I set up a hidden camera. What I saw was worse than cheating. Part 1/3. Okay, I don't even know where to start. My hands are shaking while I type this because this all happened literally 3 days ago and my brain is still trying to make sense of it. I feel like I'm in one of those nightmare scenarios you read about on Reddit at 2 a.m., thinking, wow, at least that's not me. Well, it's me now. Some background: I'm a 34M, married to my wife, Claire, 31F, for just over 5 years. We met in college, dated for a couple years after graduating, and then got married in this beautiful little vineyard ceremony. Everyone always told us we were that couple, the ones who never fight, who always look like they're in their honeymoon phase. And, to be fair, for most of our marriage, that was pretty true. I work in IT, mostly remote since COVID. Claire's a nurse, and she works irregular shifts, which means I've gotten used to weird hours and her coming home late or leaving before dawn. That's never bothered me, or at least, it didn't until recently. About 2 months ago, I started noticing little things. Stuff that felt off. Nothing huge at first. A missed call she didn't mention. Her being weirdly protective of her phone, like tilting it away when texting, or taking it into the bathroom with her. Late shifts that seemed more frequent, but never reflected in her paycheck. I know because we've got a joint account. I kept telling myself I was imagining things. I'm not a jealous guy by nature, and I've never had reason to doubt her before. But once you notice one strange thing, your brain starts connecting dots that might not even exist. The turning point came last week. She came home late, like 2 a.m. late, saying she'd stayed to help cover for another nurse. She smelled different. Not bad, but not like her usual lotion or hospital disinfectant. I asked her about it, and she brushed it off. She seemed almost annoyed I asked. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, feeling that pit in my stomach grow. By morning, I'd convinced myself I needed to know for sure what was going on. And this is where I made what might be the biggest mistake of my life, or maybe the smartest, depending on how you look at it. I decided to set up a hidden camera. Now, before anyone jumps on me, I know how this sounds. I don't make a habit of spying on my wife. But at this point, I was losing my mind. I needed answers, one way or another, before I drove myself insane with paranoia. I ordered a discreet Wi-Fi camera from Amazon, the kind that looks like a phone charger. It arrived the next day. I told Claire I'd be going into the office for a full day, which I rarely do, and in the morning before leaving, I plugged the charger into an outlet in our living room. Why the living room? Because if she was cheating at home, it wouldn't happen in the bedroom, too obvious. The living room is where she hangs out after work, sometimes with friends I've never met. The plan was simple: I'd check the camera from my phone while at work. If nothing happened, fine. I'd be the crazy jealous husband for a day and move on. For most of the day, nothing happened. Just the cat wandering around, Claire coming home around 6 p.m., dropping her bag on the couch. She made herself a drink, sat scrolling on her phone for a bit. Totally normal. Then around 8 p.m., someone knocked on the door. It wasn't anyone I recognized, at least not at first. Middle-aged guy, kind of scruffy, wearing a baseball cap low over his face. She let him in without hesitation. My stomach dropped. They hugged, not romantically, but like they knew each other well. I was about to start recording when something weird happened. Claire went to the window, closed the blinds, and then, she locked the door. The guy sat on the couch. She disappeared into the kitchen, came back with a big duffel bag I'd never seen before. She unzipped it and started taking out. I don't even know how to describe it. Not weapons, exactly, but strange equipment, ropes, what looked like heavy-duty gloves, a mask. The guy nodded like this was all perfectly normal. They talked for a while, but the camera didn't pick up audio. Claire was animated, gesturing a lot, pointing to her phone like she was showing him something. At one point, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small envelope. He opened it, counted what looked like a thick stack of cash, and tucked it into his jacket. I'm sitting there in my office, watching this in real time, my pulse in my ears. I went into this expecting maybe I'd see her cuddled up with someone, or kissing them. This was something else entirely. Then, the moment that made my blood run cold. The guy got up, walked to our hallway closet, and pulled out my hiking backpack. He started stuffing it with gear from the duffel bag. Claire handed him a set of keys, my keys. The ones I keep in that little bowl by the front door. He slung the backpack over his shoulder, hugged her again, and left. She watched him go, then sat back on the couch and just stared at the wall for a long time. I had no idea what I was looking at. Was she involved in something illegal? Was this guy some kind of criminal? Why did she have my keys? And what the hell was in that bag? I left work early, pretending I wasn't feeling well. By the time I got home, everything looked normal. Backpack in the closet. Keys in the bowl. No duffel bag in sight. Claire was in the shower. I didn't say anything. I just sat there, pretending to watch TV while my mind screamed at me. That night, after she fell asleep, I checked the backpack. Empty. I was going to confront her the next day, but something told me not to. Not yet. I needed more proof, or at least more context, before I accused her of whatever this was. So I left the camera up. And the next night? The truth started to come out, and it was so much worse than cheating. To be continued. Title: I thought my wife was cheating. What I saw was worse than cheating. Part 2/3. When I say I barely slept after that first night, I'm not exaggerating. Every creak in the house, every shift in her breathing next to me, it all made me hyper-aware. My chest felt tight, like my body already knew something my brain hadn't caught up to yet. But I didn't say a word. If I confronted her too soon, she'd have an excuse. Or she'd get rid of whatever evidence there was. Or worse, she'd figure out I'd been watching her and I'd lose my only way to know the truth. So I played the part. Made breakfast. Kissed her goodbye when she left for her shift. Went back to my home office and pulled up the camera feed. At first, nothing. Just the cat again, he's apparently living his best life without me there. I almost started to believe she wasn't going to do anything. Then, right around 7:45 p.m., there was another knock at the door. It was the same guy as before. Same baseball cap, same scruffy look. She let him in, locked the door, closed the blinds, like clockwork. But this time, there was no duffel bag. Instead, he handed her a small metal case, the kind that looks like it could hold tools, or something worse. She put it on the coffee table and opened it. I swear to God, my breath actually caught. Inside were these devices. Not phones, but small black boxes with wires sticking out. Claire picked one up and turned it over in her hands, then nodded. She started packing them into my hiking backpack again, along with gloves and 2 of those black ski masks. Then they did something that sent a jolt of ice down my spine. They both put on latex gloves. They sat down with her phone, looking at what I think were Google Maps images. She pointed at certain spots, then he'd nod and make notes on a little notepad. At one point, she reached under the couch and pulled out another envelope of cash. Counted it, handed it to him. I had no clue what I was watching. Were they planning a robbery? Was she involved in some kind of organized crime? I've seen enough movies to know this wasn't innocent. The guy left after about 40 minutes, again taking my keys. Claire stayed behind this time, pacing around the living room, checking her phone every few seconds. And here's the part that still makes my stomach churn. About 10 minutes later, she smiled. Not a happy, my husband just texted me something sweet, smile. No. This was something else. Cold. Almost satisfied. When she finally went to bed, I noticed she'd tucked that metal case into the bottom drawer of her nightstand. I wanted to confront her right then. rip the drawer open, shove the stuff in her face, demand an explanation. But some small, terrified voice in my head told me to wait one more day. I wish I could say that was the wrong decision, but it's the only reason I now know the full, horrible truth. The next day, she told me she'd be working another late shift. My heart was pounding so hard I thought she'd hear it, but I kept my voice steady and said, "No problem. I'll probably work late too." As soon as she left, I swapped the fake charger cam for one with better resolution and audio. I needed to hear what they were saying. That night, at exactly 8:12 p.m., he was back. This time, though, he wasn't wearing the cap. And that's when it hit me, I had seen him before. At our wedding. He was in the background of some of our photos, sitting at the same table as Claire's older cousin. I'd never talked to him directly, but I remembered thinking he didn't seem like the family friend type. Too intense. Hearing them talk confirmed it. I listened as Claire said, "Tomorrow's the day. We can't screw this up. He leaves at 6:30, so we'll have at least 2 hours before he's back." My skin went cold. He? As in, me? The guy asked, "You sure about the cameras?" Claire, "Yeah, he doesn't know. I checked every room. We'll be in and out." I couldn't breathe. They went over the plan in more detail. I'm not going to repeat everything they said because, frankly, I still can't wrap my head around it. But it was definitely illegal. Breaking and entering. A specific target. They even mentioned neutralizing someone if necessary. Then Claire said something that made my entire world tilt on its axis. If it works, he'll never know what really happened. We can just say it was a break-in while we were out. And by the time he figures it out, it'll be too late. The guy laughed. Cold. I like it. They packed up, left together, and took my car. I sat there, frozen, watching the empty living room feed. I didn't know whether to call the cops, follow them, or run. When she came home later that night, she acted like nothing happened. Kissed me on the cheek, complained about a patient's family being difficult, then went straight to bed. I lay there beside her, staring at the ceiling, realizing the woman I married was not who I thought she was. But here's the worst part, the next day, they actually did it. And what I saw on that camera when they came back, that's when I realized this was way, way worse than cheating. To be continued in Part 3. Title: I thought my wife was cheating. What I saw was worse than cheating. Part 3/3. I never imagined I'd be the kind of guy who'd say this, but, sometimes, the truth is so awful, you wish you'd never found it out at all. The night they came back from their job, I was glued to the camera feed like my life depended on it. At first, everything looked normal. The front door opened, they both stepped inside, laughing quietly, whispering. Then Claire pulled something out of her bag. A small vial with a clear liquid. My heart dropped. I instantly thought poison. I thought murder. They moved to the kitchen. She poured the liquid into 2 glasses and handed one to the guy. They clinked them like they were celebrating. And then, they drank. What happened next almost made me lose my mind. Claire's expression shifted from amusement to something darker, more intense. She pulled a tablet out of the bag, the kind of professional camera I'd only seen used by journalists or investigators. She set it up facing the living room, then sat down on the couch with the guy. They started talking. Calmly. As if rehearsing lines. As if reading from a script. I leaned in closer, listening to what sounded like a confession. "Everything you've seen, everything you think you know," Claire said, voice steady but cold, "it's all part of the plan. You've got no idea what's coming." The guy nodded. "He won't suspect a thing. He trusts you completely. That's why this will work." I felt my stomach twist. Who was he? Me? Or someone else? Suddenly, Claire's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, frowned, and whispered, "They're onto us. We need to speed this up." They packed up the equipment quickly and left. The silence in the house after was deafening. I spent the rest of the night in a daze, piecing together what little I'd seen. And then I remembered something I'd almost forgotten in the flood of confusion. Earlier that week, Claire had insisted on me attending a seminar out of town. For work, she said, it's important for my career. I never questioned it. Until now. I grabbed my jacket and drove to the seminar location. It was a rundown community center in the next town over. A place no one would expect a seminar to be held. I peeked inside and froze. There, in a small back room, were about a dozen people, strangers, except for Claire and the man from my cameras. They were gathered around a table filled with maps, photos, and laptops. And right there, in the center, was a big board with my face pinned to it. My mind reeled. Turns out, Claire wasn't cheating. She wasn't planning a robbery or a kidnapping. She was part of something darker. Something criminal. An underground operation targeting people like me, spouses, family members, people with secrets or vulnerabilities. They were using the Betrayal act to manipulate and control. The devices, the masks, the vials, tools to kidnap, to silence. And me? I was the next target. I stumbled back into my car, heart pounding like I'd just run a marathon. I couldn't trust her. I couldn't trust anyone. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was a trap. That night, I packed what little I could and left. I'm writing this from a safe place now, somewhere off the grid. I don't know what Claire's plan was exactly, and frankly, I'm terrified to find out. But I do know one thing. Sometimes, the worst betrayals aren't about love or lust. They're about control. And when you realize you're just a pawn in someone else's game, there's no coming back. Edit. Thank you to everyone who's reached out with support and advice. This situation has been the darkest period of my life, and sharing it here has helped me process some of it. I'm working with authorities now, but I can't share details for my safety. To anyone who's feeling betrayed or trapped, trust your gut, and don't be afraid to ask for help. If you want me to, I can draft a follow-up aftermath post detailing the fallout and how I'm moving forward. Just let me know.